Welcome to Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world to share their insights and expertise so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we drive revenue for companies by making sure they're seen as the authority and expert in their industry versus just another product or service. And today I am joined by Adam Klein with New Ventures West. So Adam, thank you so much for being here with me today.
I'm delighted to be here, Heidi. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to dive into this conversation. Can you start off and kick us off with sharing some insights into your business and the role you play within it?
Sure. So we are primarily a training and development organization, really focused on training people who work with leaders. So that could be coaches or consultants or folks in HR or leadership development. So one way of talking about it is like we're really a train the trainer type organization. So working with those who really want to enhance their effectiveness and supporting other people, whether that's as a sole proprietor or inside of an organization. And my role is I'm managing partner and one of our senior faculty members that leads a lot of our classes that support these trainings.
And learning more about you on my own, your background is a fascinating blend of engineering precision, tech entrepreneurship, social impact, and ultra marathoning. If you could share a little bit more about that, that'd be great. How do these diverse experiences shape your approach to leadership coaching?
Yeah, I often get this like kind of puzzled look like, what? How do all these things fit together? Is it that you couldn't just decide or what was going on here? And for me, the thread really is what is it like for human beings, and on this podcast in particular, leaders, to develop their full capacity and their full capability of what they could bring to the world. And we're not unidimensional. We don't live in just one space. So what is it like to really start to enhance like our ability to be courageous and resilient? That could be done many different ways. So that's where a lot of the ultra marathoning comes in, is like, what is it like to be in tune with the body and cultivate resilience and capacity to keep going, and to know when to rest, because that's also a huge piece of that type of work. And then on the engineering side and the social justice and the tech entrepreneurial part, really a thread there, and it's also connected to this ultra marathoning, is what is it like for people to really bring the fullness of their intelligence, their gifts to the world. So I started originally in engineering as like a product manager lead, and saw like how people's brilliance was really inhibited. Like they couldn't articulate maybe all the things that they saw, or they had difficulty in coordinating with other people on the team. And there were these human dynamics that were really the blockages. It wasn't what they knew, but it was being able to embody what they knew and have it be effective in how they worked with themselves and with each other. So that was at the heart of my pursuit, is how to unlock these gifts that we all bring and have them be more present in our work life, obviously, but then also our personal life. So we feel more satisfied in what we're up to and can feel that fuel to keep going.
So I'm curious, because if somebody's listening right now, I'm a big believer in collaboration and connection.
Yeah.
And if somebody's listening right now and going like, Adam, I'm here listening and I'm learning more about you and I want to see how I can support you, or if I'm the right person to work with you, who are the people or companies that you work with? And you share with us first who they are and what the process is you take them through when you're working with them.
Yeah. So I mostly define this is a term that's somewhat out there in this space, like by psychographic, less than by demographic, meaning the role that the person's in. There's lots of different roles people are in. What's most important is someone's willingness and openness to change and to learn. So I really work with leaders who are committed in a big way to transformation, which might mean that they have to face some difficult things that they don't want to really pay attention to, but they're willing to do it because of their commitment to their team or their organization or their life. And so that's mostly who I support, is leaders who have a big dedication to something bigger than themselves and are willing to commit.
And you describe your coaching methodology as alchemy, transforming challenges into catalysts for growth. Can you share a specific example where you helped a leader shift a major obstacle into an opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. And I could put in the show notes, there's a link. I wrote an article about this that gets into it even more depth. But I was working with the CEO, and he came to me because he was challenged by, a common thing that CEOs run into, which is being the bottleneck, wanting his team to feel empowered. And he had read all the little best practices around how to empower the team and how to do this and how to do that. And he was employing these techniques and they were getting some traction, but he was still really experiencing the pressure of being the bottleneck, and his team, even though he was doing what he knew to do to empower them, still coming back to him, still not really being bold, still not really taking ownership, and finding himself in a place where, like, I need some help and I'm really committed to figuring this out. So that's how I got connected to him. And what we worked with was not at the technique level, which I think we can get into more of, that with the increase of knowledge, we're going to more and more realize that insight alone isn't enough. So what was going on that we worked with was, how did people feel around him, his direct reports? Did they feel empowered? And what we got onto was no. Because even though he was, to use kind of a curse example, like quote unquote listening, which meant for him, like, let me just not talk as much and have the person share their ideas, and then I'll interject just slightly. But they could still pick up on that he wasn't really listening and that he wasn't really buying their ideas. So I said, it's like they're trying to give you a gift and you're not even opening it. You're just tossing it aside and then sharing your opinion. So you have to be willing to receive what they say, have it impact you, and then they're going to be more open to whatever it is you have to say next. And there's going to be this true collaboration and capacity for them to feel like, oh yeah, he's in it with me. I feel him here, which internally turns into confidence for their direct report, and like, oh, he believes in me. So that's what I mean, like the alchemy. There's these things that are a little bit more invisible, a little bit harder to grasp, that we need to work on, especially as leaders, to help people feel, in this case, like empowered and able to own things and move forward with them. So that's like one example. And I just talked with him a couple months ago. And, after many, many years, he was like, you don't understand how helpful our work together was. Like years later,
Wow.
our organization's really thriving, and this is, they're at scale, just to put some perspective to it. It's a multinational company. You would recognize the brands in many of the stores you go to. So there was a lot of complexity that we were dealing with that really shifted as he changed. And
Right.
this gets back to your point of like, who do I want to work with or who's most supported by me? It's leaders who are willing to change themselves, because that has the cascade effect.
That's so
Yeah.
important what you just said, because it's true. It starts with you. Things can shift quickly if you're willing to shift yourself. Like it starts internally versus outwardly. Like instead of blaming, let's take
Yes.
responsibility. Right? How are things happening to me versus how are things happening for me? That whole mantra. And
Exactly.
you said something else about at the beginning of this piece of the conversation. You shared about the bottleneck, and I've talked with and this is why I love this podcast, because I'm loving these conversations.
Right.
And many of the people that I'm talking with, and you can listen to these conversations, they might be your ideal client, Adam. You could totally listen to these conversations, reaching out to them, going, I can help you. Because many of them told me when I asked them, what's the bottleneck that's happening in your business right now? And they're like, it's me. It's me. So that is powerful. And just yeah, everything you just shared is so good. So my next question for you is your work. You had mentioned we can go deeper into your work. So your work integrates mind, body, heart, and systems in leadership development. So which of these do you find that leaders struggle with the most, and how do you help them break through that?
Well, it's connected to what you just said. They're facing this increasing pressure of bottleneck or whatever it might be, and it's only accelerating in the current environment we're in, and especially going to, I think, continue to be that way. And my experience is the two most difficult are the body and the heart, because they're the least familiar for many people. We don't get educated about them very much in our education system, other than maybe like physical education, which even that isn't so present anymore. These two are often left out, and they're really the most often powerful place to work. To what you were saying about like once we change something internally, it starts changing how we act externally. And I would say that's very true about body and heart, meaning a lot of our thinking, a lot of how we perceive the world and interact with other people is influenced by these background parts of ourselves, which is our body and how we're feeling emotionally, and that's often out of our awareness. So it doesn't get included in how we think about change as a leader. And there's lots of research around this. There's a famous study about like judges who, depending on when you were up for your parole, that dictated a lot about like if it was extended or not. And it turned out it was like, was it before or after lunch?
Wow, really?
Yes, because the judges after lunch were more satiated, so they were more willing to cut yes, like grant
That's
parole.
incredible. I never knew that.
Never knew that. The other thing about like how when you can walk into a room, they have leaders wear different devices, and depending on who's in the room and what they're meeting about, like there's a real spike in their heart rate, even though they can't perceive it, which makes you short, makes you unwilling, makes it much more difficult to listen, to make decisions with clarity. So there's all these background influences going on that are significant and important to pay attention to. So my sense is that's a real helpful place to work. And it changes from, like I said earlier, insights we have. Like, oh, the insight is I need my team to feel empowered. That's great. What does it look like to have that be an embodied action that you can live into so that it really takes place? So that's a key thing in my work with clients is insight alone isn't going to do very much.
I'm getting the takeaway like don't make any decisions until after lunch, until you're feeling full.
So you're yeah.
That was mind blowing to me. So you talked about teams and leaders. So let's talk about that a little bit because you in the last piece of our conversation you talked about listening, how important listening is, and really listening to listen, be present. And I spoke with another person, and you just tied this all together, and they had shared, which was eye opening for me, and you're eye opening my eyes to a lot of different things here too. Is that when we listen, it's important to be not worried about the next question. Many times we're worried, especially in the sales part of our business, right? We could be so focused on what's our next question that we're not fully present with the person as they're speaking. And that can happen in leadership with teams as well. Like you shared, they're listening for a small portion, but they're just waiting to talk. Right? They're
Yes.
waiting to speak. So you've helped CEOs and executives turn struggling teams into high performing units. What are some, maybe listening is the biggest blind spot, I don't know, but what are some of the top leadership blind spots that hold teams back from reaching their full potential?
Well, listening is certainly one of them. And I think connected to listening is like, what's the background of the relationships that exist on the team, like with the leader in the team and amongst the team themselves? Because the relational context, the relationships of the team are really the container in which possibilities and getting things done exist. So, for example, depending on how I feel about you, I'm going to be more or less committed to getting something done to help you. So the more connected, the more I feel like we're in this together, the more I feel like, yes, we have a strong relationship, then the more I'm willing to do difficult things, to come alongside you, to help you. And if that doesn't exist, then there's a lot of breakdown in trust, breakdown in communication, breakdown in people feeling settled enough so that they can be creative. So that's another key piece is how are we doing here? And are we even in a space where being productive and getting things done is possible? Or are we just pretending like it's possible and are going to keep running into the same breakdowns over and over and over again because we won't attend to the root issue? And that's a big challenge that leaders face is wanting to just do the quick fix because it's the immediate thing and they live in a very fast-paced organization and we got to get this moving. So it's like, let's just take the immediate action thinking it's going to work because pausing feels like it's going to take too long. But if you think about it just in a little bit of a longer time horizon, the net result is it's much wiser to slow down for a moment, really attend to what's important, and then get momentum rather than continuing to try to just do quick fix after quick fix. And then 6 months goes by and you're like, nothing's really changed. Mm-hmm. When if we had decided to slow down 6 months ago, we'd be in a very different place today.
Yeah, many times when we slow down, we actually go faster.
Exactly.
Step back to get 2 steps forward. So let's talk about the environment because you just basically we're talking about that right now. Environment is a little emotional right now. There's a lot of things happening in the world and in the workplace. So what do you like? What is it like to be in an environment where emotions are running high? What should leaders be doing when emotions are running high, and how can they work with their teams effectively to manage that and support them?
Yeah. So this is, I think, going to be an increasingly important dimension for leaders and really all of us to pay attention to in a space, in a time when the temperature of emotions is high, like anxiety, anger, frustration, all of these, what I would say, like high energy emotions. It's difficult to have clarity. It's difficult to make good decisions, difficult to be in collaborative relationships with people. So really what's helpful is what will help my capacity to like downshift a little bit so that I'm can be more present to what's going on.
Mhm.
And this gets back to the body and heart. Like what helps my body feel more regulated, honestly, so that I can think more clearly and be in a conversation more openly with someone. So this goes back to the insights thing and what's in the background important to pay attention to is body and heart so that our nervous systems is in a regulated state, our emotions aren't overrunning us and impacting how we think about things. So on a team level, it's important to just take a moment to breathe so that you can feel settled. Like we had this example of the judge, it's important to eat because it turns out that affects your decision making.
Nourishment is necessary.
Nourishment
Yes,
is
and
necessary.
important.
Yeah, I mean, so some of these basic things that I think we can become numb to because we hear about them so often are really fundamental and a starting place and lead into being able to be more creative, be more resilient, be more bold, which are going to be increasingly important, which we can talk about in a moment.
Yeah, and how, yeah, creating calm, right? How
Yeah.
can we create calm? Because when it starts with you again, bringing it back to you, then it resonates with the rest of your team. So, yeah, I want to get into marketing a little bit because this is about business growth and how we can support other businesses in growing. So, are there any marketing and sales challenges that New Ventures West has faced in the recent years, and how have you addressed them or and overcome them?
Oh, I mean, certainly, definitely, especially in the coaching space, because it has been a growing space over the last 5 to 10 years, especially. And so there's been a lot around like how do we differentiate and make ourselves stand out, all that kind of sort of block and tackle things that people talk about. And for us, what seems to be really important and helpful is kind of like old school marketing. Like, let's be in relationship with people. Let's connect, not just online, but in person or voice to voice, and help establish like networks of support. And I think that that's going to become an increasingly important thing to do in a digitized age where things are more and more trying to be like, let's just do quick transactional networking. How do we build lasting alliances with sister companies or companies that are maybe tangential to us, but complementary so that we can be in partnership together? So that to me seems like a really important thing. And then the other is really becoming clear on what is it that we're bringing and how do we say it in a way that's crisp, clear, and creative. Because I don't know if we'll get into this later, but like with AI, where everything is really in a way accelerating, but it's also accelerating to homogeneity. So the capacity to be creative and be clear and connect, I think, is an increasingly important thing in marketing, which I think trends with why there's such an increase in podcasting because
Mhm.
it is so relationally oriented, voice to voice oriented, and people are appreciating, oh yeah, there are human beings still in the world and we can talk to them.
Yeah, you can connect and
We can
like
connect.
yes, and they collaborate. And I've been saying this for a long time. I'm in the visibility space. We help, businesses obviously grow their visibility so they can generate leads and then create more clients and grow their revenue. But it starts with connection, collaboration and connection are currency. And it's
Yep.
not like every person you collaborate or connect with is going to turn into currency, but it's also going to get you closer to, supporting each other in some way. Like if I know somebody that needs your services, I now know you, Adam. I'm going to
Right.
send them your way and hopefully vice versa. But you can't get that ball rolling until you have that connection and that collaboration. And podcasting is a great way of doing it. And it's not going away, it's only getting bigger. So, like, to case in point, in social media, some people get burned out in social media. That being said, I just did here, I like listened to a thing with Gary Vee in Mexico City, which is phenomenal. And he was like, listen, social media is free. It's not going to be here forever. We got about 10 more years with this, possibly less, with this, like, free platform to do these things. Yes, you can buy ads and you can do all those things, but this is a great way of doing it. And if you're not getting visible out there right now, then you're going to be missing the boat. In 10 years, it's going to
Yep.
get harder because, people are going to move from the phone, this thing right here that I'm holding if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on podcasting, you can't see this right now, but I'm holding up my phone. That's going to change into like glasses. Things are transforming. So, yeah, you brought up AI. This is a perfect like little transition. So, what with the rise of AI, as you were sharing, how is New Vestors West incorporating AI and technology into your coaching programs and your operations?
Yeah, I think for us, it's really interesting to experiment with it and see like what is this offering? What are its limitations? And I think other people have said it can really help sort of move things faster in some respects, like around like, writing or content creation and getting instant feedback and having it say things. And the concern that we have and what we see is, like I mentioned earlier, because it's built on an existing knowledge base, what it feeds back is often just sort of regurgitation. So there's a similarity across it all. And it's why that it's possible to plop something into an AI detector and it to say, yeah, this was written by AI. So for us, it's helpful. I think it will help be able to test things and sort of nuance insights and things like that. And it's going to call on more and more creativity and really help us to think more boldly about what the world needs truly and offering that. In the coaching space, it kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier. It's really helpful from like an insight perspective, but it's not so helpful from, okay, so how do I actually integrate that learning or embody that learning given the uniqueness of who I am in my unique context? And part of that comes back to the fact that like we're human beings and there's these elements of our nervous system called mirror neurons, and we really learn by being in contact and in relationship with someone else. So that I don't think, as far as I can tell, is going to be replaceable with AI, the way that we influence and learn with all the things that aren't being said. So to me, that's not going away in the coaching space. Some of the knowledge, maybe, which is fine, in a way that
Right.
just really emphasizes the need for deeper and more transformational work around these unsaid dynamics that are important. And I think it will also help, it's going to mature some industries that are like coaching is still pretty nascent or pretty early in its development. So I think it's going to help really clarify, like, yeah, what is the benefit of coaching and what is coaching offering people outside of an insight?
Yeah, you touched on so many points. I had so many questions about AI, but
Sorry.
no, it was amazing. You just hit them all, which is fantastic. It made me more efficient, which is what AI does, right?
Right.
AI is helping us be more efficient, more productive. But at the end of the day, it's not going to erase or replace the human connection and that piece in coaching, which is you need that. If you're going to sit here and get coached by AI, it's not going to give you that accountability. It's not going to give you that emotion or that connection that you need, which that's always going to be needed in your space. So let's talk about, since we're talking about AI, let's talk about how the coaching industry will be evolving. So how do you foresee, Adam, the coaching industry evolving in the next few years? And what steps are you all taking to stay ahead of those trends?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm seeing already that will probably continue to take place is like if there are small things or questions that a leader has, there's an easy way to kind of just do a quick interaction around a particular question. So I think that's probably going to be more and more present and prevalent, like just quick interactions around maybe a decision. But the deeper transformation and long lasting change, like the example of the CEO I gave, I think that's going to also become more clear because of AI of like, oh, actually, there's something deeper going on here that I need help with. So for us, I mean, that's been our focus all along. The way we talk about it is we coach the who, the person, and not the situation that they're in. So I think AI will really help with situational things here and there, but it's not going to really help with the who. So in a way, it really helps crystallize the central thing that we've been about since our founding, which is working at the level of the person and helping them develop more competency in their life, helping expand their capacity to be more present, more bold, more creative. So it really highlights the need for those things. So in a way, we're excited that that's going to become more and more clear to people.
Yeah. So let's talk about your growth goals. What are your growth goals for, say, the next 6 months?
For the next 6 months, so our big primary thing is we run leadership cohorts for people who are wanting to train as integral coaches.
Mhm.
So, we run several of those a year. So we would love to see another cohort added on this year so that we can have another whole group of people coming through. And then we're also looking at growing into how do we take our methodology and expand it out into working with different constituencies. So one of the places we're looking at is how do we support mental health professionals and teachers and anyone else who's working with like young adults around 18 to 25 because
Mhm.
there's such a need in the world to support people in that age range. So we're wanting to offer folks who are in that space, here's how you can bring in the integral methodology and working with youth. So there's a way we're wanting to expand that out into different domains.
So let's, in the spirit of helping other people who are listening to this podcast and they're scaling and growing, and they're going like, okay, they're crushing it, right? Adams, they're doing their thing, they're crushing it. If you had a magic wand and could fix one issue right now in your business, what would that be? Maybe it wasn't an issue in 2024, or you're doubling down on one specific area this year. What would that be that you'd want to fix?
Well, it's still a thing that we're really paying attention to, and I would say visibility, like increased visibility. Um, for us, that would be huge. So that's if I had a magic wand, that's what it would be.
And what have you guys done for visibility so far then?
So far, I had a podcast that went dormant, so I've relaunched that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We went through a big rebranding about 3 years ago to be more clear about what it is that we're bringing, elements like that. I've been much more public about writing and getting things out in that way. So there's different things in the fire that are coming out around visibility that have been helpful.
What is your podcast called? So we can spread the news, spread the
Yeah,
word.
yeah. So the podcast is called Stepping In, and it's all about what does it mean to step into your life, whatever your life is, more boldly, more courageously, with more creativity, and really bringing your gifts into the world. So it's a lot of interviews of different graduates of our program or business leaders or individuals in their life and highlighting the change that they went through and what helped contribute to that.
And the name of that again is
It's called Stepping In.
Stepping In.
And it's
Awesome.
on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the podcasting platforms.
Okay, so for all of you listening, go check out Stepping In, and through Apple, you can leave a review. So please do leave a 5-star review for Adam with Stepping In, and also go to his YouTube channel and subscribe. We want to get those views up and get this podcast going again. So amazing. Absolutely. You're welcome. So if we were to revisit this conversation a year, we literally just launched, the time that we're talking, we launched this podcast last week. So this is our second week that we're in, in flow of it. And I'm blessed to have you and grateful to have you on the show. What would you, if we were to revisit and have you back on in a year, what would define a successful year for you?
Well, I would start with all the people coming through our company continuing to have transformational experiences. So highlighting the importance that those we serve are continued to be impacted by that. And then the second would be, that we've expanded our offerings and that they're full with people in them. Because for us, it's the age-old ripple effect phenomenon. So we see people come in, their life gets changed, and then that starts to ripple out into their communities. So success would look like we're at capacity and needing to expand.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
So Adam, how can we find you? How can people listening connect with you?
So the best way to connect with us is you can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Klein, and I'm there connected to New Ventures West. You can visit us online at newventureswest.com. There's lots of different resources available there, ways of staying connected to us. Those are probably the two best. And then you mentioned the podcast. So that's on YouTube, on the New Ventures West channel. And then I think the last thing I would say is you can also follow our New Ventures West page on LinkedIn and like us there, and you'll be connected to all the various resources that we put out, which is quite a lot.
Amazing. Yeah, they're upping their visibility, so go check them out. So we've got Adam at Stepping In Podcast. We're gonna scale this podcast, Adam. I'm a big believer in podcasts. This is my second one we're launching, and I'm a big believer in them. They're not going away. They're only getting bigger. And people want new ways of connecting with people. And I feel like listening and seeing you and, getting that, we had some laughs today, a couple of chuckles, like that helps with people connecting. And it's all about connecting and collaboration. Check out Stepping In Podcast. Go visit Adam Klein on LinkedIn. You can also check out New Ventures West on LinkedIn, and you can go to newventureswest.com. Adam, this has been incredible. Is there anything, first, thank you for your time. I appreciate you taking time away from your day to be with me today. Is there anything that you want to share that I didn't ask you or we didn't tap into?
I think what comes to me to say is for all of those out there listening, be committed to your life and really stepping in fully, even in the midst of difficulty and hardship. Like really turning toward that can be immensely fruitful. And if you need support doing it, find the support. Because I feel like we're in a time and space where more is going to be needed in the world from us. And it can feel daunting alone, but it doesn't feel so daunting when we're doing it together. So whether that's in your business, which I know a lot of people are listening from the business context, it's important there. And that trickulates into people's personal lives. So really, as the name of the podcast goes, stepping into life, I think is really important. Find the support you need and let's see what's possible from there. So that's what I would say as like a big, big invitation is really people turning into their lives, bringing their gifts forward. And then maybe the last thing I would offer is really gleaning into what is it like to live with wisdom and creativity in an age of anxiety and anger and frustration, like really what's needed to be paid attention to and what can be left to the wayside. So that's, I think, an important question to be in our day and age is what's most essential.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, Adam. That was incredible. And please connect with Adam, reach out to him. And if you've loved this conversation with Adam and I today, please leave us a 5-star review. Go check out Adam's podcast at Stepping In. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and comments below, and Adam will, respond. And when you reach out to him, please let him know where you connected with him on this podcast. And if you feel your business is blending in and you're ready to grow your visibility, be seen as the expert in your space and scale to the next level, then go grab our free download of your Spotlight to Scale blueprint at spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. It's yours for free, simple download. Also, one more time, connect with Adam Klein on LinkedIn, New Ventures West on LinkedIn, newventureswest.com, and now the Stepping In podcast. We're going to rock this podcast, Adam. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Heidi. It's been really a delight to be with you.
It's been such a pleasure. And thank you for listening to Adam and I, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.